Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going over Cromwell Stone from 1992-ish. It's a reprint, so we don't know. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is random access. I'm up to actually 20, I'm actually up to 30. 30 will be going out this month, I believe. And you can get this at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, or you can get these at my website, alexanderturbin.com. And when you get them at Patreon, it's $3 a month, and you get the all of the digital work, which is hundreds and hundreds of pages. And you also get the monthly comic book that I produce, which is 12 pages, full size, full color, and all kinds of different stories. My website has other stuff. The random access also has collections of Cyrene and Forlorn and all that kind of stuff. Or you can message me at alexturbin0441 at yahoo.com or alexturbin0441 at Instagram. So let's get into it. Although, wait, I have one more thing. Go and vote for who you like better. From last week's artist poll this week is Mike Mignola and Jay Lee, two fantastic artists. And just go check out the my last video for a link, or the Wednesday video for a link, the stream, and you can click it there, or you can go to any of my posts, and it's right there too. I think, excuse me, I think Mignola is winning right now, but that could always change if we get enough votes. So let your voice be heard. Sorry. So Cromwell Stone, I must have read it before. I don't know where I got it. Maybe I just got it recently and I just don't remember reading it. Although I think I could have gotten it when I was younger and then I didn't love it. I love the art. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where you look at a comic book and you look at it and you look at the art and you think, this is amazing quality. Of course it's amazing quality. I mean, look at the cover and we'll look at the interiors. It is obviously a fantastically drawn book, but it's a question of substance versus I don't know what you would call it. Not substance. Substance versus old man brain. Anyway, it's got the art. It's got a beautiful art. It's a reprint, I believe, of something that was put in heavy metal. It's by Andreas. I don't know why he doesn't have a last name. It's Andreas. I think he must be a French cartoonist. But I believe this itself came out in 1992, but I think it was, it says Cromwell Stone from 1990, from Guy Delcourt Productions. All of the materials 1992. So I don't know if it originally came out in 1990 or this was a 70s book or an 80s book. Anybody knows anything about this, Andres and Cromwell Stone, please let me know. I Googled it. I always Google stuff before I have these reviews. And a lot of times I can find stuff and I'll be able to look at modern stuff they've done. But I just can't find anything on this Andreas or Cromwell Stone, other than that there is a graphic novel. I believe it's of this stuff, but it's maybe thicker paper. So it's a bigger, thicker, beefier book, because this is a self-contained story, I do believe. It's based on it's not based, but it has a H.P. Lovecraft vibe to it, and it's very influenced by H.P. Lovecraft. There's even a quote by Lovecraft in the beginning, which says, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear." So typical Lovecraftian type of stuff, and the illustrations are very Lovecraftian. And like I said, the illustrations are beautiful. However, it's like I said, it's a difference between substance and superficial. Superficial? I don't know if I could say that. It's not superficial. I just can't think of the words that I'm thinking about. Where the illustrations are really fantastic, the story is pretty good, but the narrative art just doesn't follow along with it. There were multiple times where I was reading along and I had to stop, relook, go back a couple pages, and then I still couldn't figure out what was going on. So narrative art wise, this is kind of a bust, which is really too bad, because I mean, you look at the line work, the ink work is so beautiful. I would love to see an artist edition of this. I would love to see a penciled edition and an inked edition, like he did. He doesn't. Obviously, he doesn't ink everything on the. He doesn't pencil and then ink everything. That would be crazy. He must pencil the outlines and stuff like that, and then go in with his brush or his pen or whatever, and just start making these crazy ink lines, because every facet of this book is super inked, and every little piece is it's just so busy. There's just so much going on each panel. I know that Kurt Bruegel really enjoys that kind of technique, and it's so funny to figure out, or to find out what people really enjoy about comic book art, or comic book page, or comic book panel, and what is really important to people. Some people, it's lots of blacks, heavy blacks. Some people, there's lots of 3D and action and stuff like that. And some people, it's just having a lot of full things going on in the page, and not having any positive or negative space or anything like that. I would say, for me, what's most important in comic books is the narrative art. I've seen art that I feel like the art part isn't really that great, but the narrative art is fantastic, and you feel emotions. You read it along quickly. It everything is there with a purpose, and so I think that's just kind of, and it's a comic book, so it's not just an art book. If it's an art book, that's fantastic, and you've got illustrations and you've got text and stuff like that, and they go together, and that's really fantastic. But to have the narrative art missing from a comic book, that is the whole piece of what the genre is, or not the genre, but the art form, the medium. The medium is comic books. You want to tell a clear, concise story, unless you're going for weird and stuff like that. But so I guess I would say that. But so I'm gonna talk about the art as we going along, and I'll try to hit on the story, but I'll probably backtrack and talk about the story, because, like I said, it's a little bit convoluted, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. The story in a whole makes a lot of sense. It's very not noirish, but it's very horrific H.P. Lovecraft story, basically. So it starts out with this guy, Cromwell Stone, and he is on a beach, and there's like waves and stuff like that. And this is very harkens to where I live, because I'm 20 minutes from the coast of Maine, and there's like vistas with rock stuff like this all along the shores of Maine. And I grew up on the coast of Maine a little bit for a few years, and it was exactly like this kind of thing. So I'm really into the location and stuff. And as I said, the whole ink work, like, you have different values and different hues and different textures, which is very, very weird, because it's just straight lines, and yet he's creating textures, which is really fantastically done. And everything is not like photorealistic. He's not going for photorealistic. He's going for an exaggerated kind of thing. His work reminds me of Kelly Jones. Kelly Jones probably is influenced by this guy, but also Rick Leonardi, which is one of my favorite artists. And his characters, his figures are super exaggerated, and yet they still are kind of realistic looking at the same time. So we have this character, and apparently the crux of the story is that there was some sort of ship accident or something. These people were coming back from Europe, and there were 10 of them. Something happened to the ship, and 10 of them survived, and the rest were killed. You learn more about that later on. But it's Cromwell Stone, and he has this other The last two, this is the last two of survivors of that ship, and they're kind of talking to each other. This is one of the problems with the book and the narrative art is it maybe it talks up to me too much, and doesn't give me enough backstory, because if it has this whole sequence, could be a dream, could be a previously, could be an epilogue or a prologue, something like that. We just don't know, and they don't tell us. They just kind of um, continue the story or start the story or whatever. It says, I'm afraid our number may be decreasing again. 10 years in a row, the 20th of December has been a doomsday when it should have been a synonym for joy and celebration. So it's the two characters. They're the last two survivors of the ship. And one of the things is the writing. The writing I really enjoyed. I really loved the narration. I really loved the dialogue, especially the dialogue. The dialogue is very good. So going back and reading it, rereading it, going back through the pages, it's not a chore. But you really want to figure things out because it's so good art, such good writing that you really don't want to be confused. You want to know what's going on. And then they're talking about the others that have died, and Cromwell Stone is talking about one of the other, the last survivors that they had been writing to each other, and that's the way they knew they were going to know if there was some sort of issue with each other, if one of them had disappeared or something. Don't know if this is previously or whatever. And Cromwell Stone is talking about a fairly ordinary letter, but for that last sentence, which was right here. On the train, I read Jack's last letter again. I can't wait to see you, my dear Stone, so that we can get together. We can confront the creatures of the night who spy on us. Doesn't understand that. It's very cryptic. He's on the train to see him because he was invited to go over there to his friend's house. He goes there and I don't know, he doesn't get lost or whatever, but he feels like he's being followed. There's these quirky, scary characters, much like every H.P. Lovecraft book, novel, story, and they're just kind of like, whether they're crazy bums or creepy police officer or whatever. Everyone's really very creepy, and that is right here in this Cromwell Stone story as well. He's asking directions from this trains person, and the train person tells him, conductor, engineer, I don't know, somebody that he got off the train. And Cromwell Stone, he's telling him he's got to go a far way down the street, but he'll be able to find it. It's right on the left. It's a long ways, and you got to go. So Cromwell Stone is walking towards his friend's house, and this is the part that is very frustrating with this, because like I said, you get very confused because the narrative art simply doesn't catch up to the regular art of the artist. He's got these panels, and Cromwell Stone is looking back. It kind of seems like he's looking back, but he doesn't see anything. He goes forward. Is he looking back? He sees a shadow maybe, and then he keeps looking back and he doesn't see anything. So it's really very hard to, without any narration. If there had been some narration, like Cromwell Stone keeps looking back and seeing only shadows, something like that, it would have been a little bit more enticing and a little bit more less confusing, because you don't know, does he see something back there? And he is hurrying, and he's hurrying as much as he can. And I love the shadows. This is where I see the Kelly Jones stuff going on, is the different shadows, and I love that. But then this crazy page with the intertwining panels, the weird panels. He's going along. He sees this water tower, and then he goes through the gate. He thinks he's being followed. All right, so as I'm reading it again, I'm kind of catching on to what he's doing. So, I mean, he does do it, but it's just a little bit confusing for me. Maybe if you guys have read this and you don't think it's confusing at all, that's possible as well. I think maybe this would have been a little bit better as a straightforward paneled page, although this kind of thing gets too much for me. This whole long, thin panels. It's cramming in a lot of information, which is really good. But maybe it's just too much. I think I would rather have seen more pages and a little bit less panels and a little bit less squished stuff, especially when you're seeing all of this fantastic art. This water tower art, it's in the shadows, it's lit up from the bottom. It's fantastic. But then you see this kind of stuff and you just don't have the space to put all of that kind of detail in. I would have loved to have seen this a little bit bigger. It's an unusual looking house. So he makes it to the house, but then fade to black. Again, I think it would have been better maybe if it had said, and then he faints or something like that, because when it goes to black, as my last issue of Random Access has them going to black and I don't put anything, hopefully it reads okay. And only people that have read it can actually tell me if it reads okay or not. But he wakes up. There's somebody squatting, I think, in this house. And this is his friend's house that he was invited to. And but he's just trying to figure out where he is and what's going on. He decides to figure that out by renting the place. He says it's the same place that his friend was at, and he's got all those letters inviting him to join him at the at his house, but he isn't anywhere to be seen. So they're going through the house. He's the realtor or whatever is explaining all of this stuff. There's a locked door in a closet. The owner of the house, that's their only rule, is they want that one closet and they want it to be undisturbed. So Cromwell Stone moves in, and there's a whole bunch of beautiful, artistically done architecture. It's really great. It's got some great lighting effects, and it's just really fantastic the way it's done. Again, more. He's got this shading, hatching. It's a lot of hatching, not cross hatching, just the hatching. It's a lot of different hatching, and but he creates different textures, like I said before, of the trees and of the drapery and walls and glass and stuff. So he really puts his hatching into effect here. He's exploring the house, and he's scared. He's cold. He's going to start a fire. He's paranoid. The biggest thing about this book is that there's a lot of paranoia going on, and he's trying to cut the chill and maybe cutting the paranoia by starting the fire. He looks back. He thinks he's being followed, or he thinks something's there. This, again, is something that I read and reread. He's making the fire. Something happens. Smoke billows out everywhere from the fire. It's just a lot of weird, crazy stuff that's happening, and I need some narration because I don't understand what's going on. It's beautifully done. I want to know what's going on because I really like the writing so far, and I really like the art so far. I really want to understand this. Like I've said before, confusion is the killer of a good comic book. If you're confused while you're reading it, you're not going to want to continue reading it. I did want to continue reading this because I really did enjoy the art and the writing, like I've said. But confusion can only last for so long before you're going to put this book down and not finish it. Something happens. I think he gets knocked out, or no, there's some sort of weird. He thinks that the billowing smoke was something from the logs. It like blows up, does something. I don't know, something weird. Lots of smoke, and then it must dissipate fairly quickly. It's hard to tell, but he's trying to figure it out. And then he sees some sort of weird skeleton in the fire. I don't know if it's actually in the fire or somewhere in the house. Again, a little bit of narration would have helped. He heads back to the train station to talk to the train manager. There's a mute kid, and the train manager is really mean to him. So Cromwell Stone kind of takes him under his wing and brings him someplace. They have some hot chocolate, whatever. The kid, much like H.P. Lovecraft, he has some sort of key to this whole thing, and the kid gives Cromwell Stone a little stone, which is some sort of talisman or whatever. We think he goes back home, and is this where he looks at his clocks? No. He's still discombobulated. He's still confused about everything. And I think he goes and looks around the garden, because I think the house is surrounded by a big garden, and there's another house, and there's a water tower inside the big garden. I believe it would have been really fantastic to have an overview of the house before. There could have been like a 3/4 bird's eye view of the house and the smaller house and the water tower. That would have really been fantastic, because that would have given you a layout of what was going on in the house, in and around the house. He goes to look at the little house that's outside in the garden, and again he gets knocked out. I think there's a crack, so that's on his head. I wish there'd been a big panel and this had been a little bit more straightforward. That's where some of the confusion gets through, where it just goes fade to black, crack, fade to black. Okay, that's great. I understand that. That's cool. But it would have worked a lot better for me if it had been only 3 panels on this page here on the bottom part, when the last 2 were the crack. And it could have been this page, this panel, this panel, and this panel. Don't need any of this stuff, because it doesn't work with the story. It's all about working with the story, and I just was really confused again. You see this cosmic horror stuff, and you know it's an H.P. Lovecraftian thing, so you're looking for some cosmic horror, and it's these weird creatures, and this is a weird page. It comes out of nowhere. I'm okay with it. I know it's coming. I know there's some sort of cosmic horror, and so I'm okay with it. It's just weird. He wakes up. We don't know where he is. I thought he was on another planet, kind of like John Carter and Mars. I thought he was like on Mars or something. But no, this is just the rocky hills, and the apparently the house is on the coast, and there's like a rocky crevasse or some sort of he's on a cliff. The house is on a cliff or something. So he's on the beach, and somebody comes along, a mariner, and he knows where the pathway back up to the house is. I don't know, that he just kind of comes along and helps him. Tells him this little story of how these eels, or these snakes, the sea serpents would help ships guide their way away out of storms and stuff. I don't think they were supposed to be bad eels. He kind of makes it sound like they're good. And he shows Cromwell Stone the path to get back up to this house and stuff. So then Cromwell he's got all of these clocks that he's had brought to this house, where his old friend died or disappeared or whatever. So he's looking for this mystery, or he's looking to make it through this mystery. He's kind of scared, or I would be scared. I don't know why he moved into this house trying to find the mystery, because he's just going to get disappeared himself. I wouldn't do that, but maybe he's a little bit braver than I am. Wouldn't take much. So he's inspecting some of the books and stuff. And then he hears ding dong, the bell, and he goes there. Although he's looking at his clocks, and I think this is the first place. No, he's had his clocks delivered, and because he kind of complains about how they left some of them laying down and all up. So he measured it beforehand to make sure all of his clocks could stand up in this one room, so he could show off the clocks or whatever. But unfortunately, the clocks don't all make it up, because he's trying to get it up, and it's one of the clocks hits the ceiling. So the ceiling is either coming down, or the roof, the floor is going up. We don't know which. And then again, I get a little bit confused, because there's a character, there's another ding dong, there's another somebody at the front door. It is Gordon Globe. I don't know who Gordon Globe is. Stone, I heard that you live here. Now I happen to be in the neighborhood. Come in, Globe. I have a lot to tell you. I need your advice. Is Globe... I think Globe is the person that originally lived here, and he thought he was had disappeared. Who was he writing letters to? Because he wrote a letter to Fairly. No, Fairly was his friend. So I think that he is just another one of the. I think there was 12 or 13 of the people that survived. He goes into the house and Cromwell Stone is showing him his clocks, is showing him his stuff, and he's telling him about the clocks and how he measured it and how he thought it was perfectly set for the clocks. But then we find out that this guy Globe was messing with his head. He was saying, "Is this the measuring sticks that you used?" And it was broken, and he had actually broken it beforehand. So to kind of mess with Cromwell Stone's whole identity, I guess. And he was telling him to sit by the fire and read some books, and that will relax him and calm his nerves. Cromwell goes and grabs a book, and he's going to sit by the fire, but then he has been poisoned, or he's been something's been put into the wine here, and again he blacks out. A lot of blacking out in this book, probably too much, and especially since there's no narration as to say what happens afterwards. There's some sort of dream or something where the ship is being brought to safety by these serpents or something, and but I don't know particularly what happens. It's the Leviticus, which is the ship that they were on, and they just go into this narration of what happened, where some of them, they were going from Europe to America, and there was a mutiny. For some reason. The captain was making some sort of investigation. There was a mutiny, and the passengers were put onto a dinghy and sent adrift into the ocean while the rest of the ship sailed away. So because there was barely any way of them being rescued, they all thought they were dead, but eventually they were rescued, and that's what happens. I don't know. More blacking out, I think. Actually, he goes back to his house, and here is the owner of the house, and I have no idea what she has to do with anything, other than Cromwell Stone telling her the weird stuff. He wants her to fix the house because it's messing with his brain. Like, all of his clocks are smashed up because the flooring is rising up, and it's smashing his clocks. He gets very upset. She's trying to disarm him or help him or whatever, and he just wants to take off and leave. Again, I believe she poisons him, poison as to like a sleeping, something to make him pass out or whatever. I don't think it's actually poison. He wakes up in some sort of cave that has these all of the different people that were on the ship, and they're all here hanging out in some sort of crevasses or something like that. And then, oh man, it is very difficult to figure out what's going on. He makes his way out of there, but something's following him, and he's trying to get away. He's very scared, and it is very creepy and enticing and stuff like that, because you want to know what's going on. It's just too bad that each one ends up with a blackout, and you kind of lose what's going on in the story. So he makes it to the Leviticus. I think the Leviticus has been smashed up on the rocks on the shoreline, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. Or it's in a cave a la Goonies, I think. But he makes it through up into the ship, and that's where he sees this. He's making his way up through the ship, or his house. I can't tell whether it's his house. Like, this is the ship, right? And then he's going up these stairs. So maybe there's a cave underneath his house, and maybe that's why it's raising. Maybe that's why the floor is rising, because the ship is rising. Possibly, I'm not entirely sure. But I believe he's back in his house, and he's doing something, and he finds a dresser, and he opens the dresser, and it's got these like stripes on it, which the whole stripe thing is like a whole motif of the whole book. I think it's supposed to be another world, another universe. something like that, another dimension. He finds Fairley, which is the person that owned the house or was in the house beforehand. So they get together, jumps through the window. I jumped through the window. The cold also burning Cromwell stone. I jumped through the window, and while the penetrating cold invaded the house, shadows seemed to gather like lost souls around a fireplace with icy fire. Afterwards, they came to get me. At least I thought so, and I ran. So I guess he's trying to make it. I don't know. He goes to the coast. He goes to the coastline near his house, beneath his house, next to his house or something. He breaks into the ship. Is that a ship? I'm not entirely sure. And that's where Gordon comes back, and he's going to explain the whole thing. Finally, we have an explanation of stuff. So it's a lot of weird stuff going on, kind of like that Martin Scorsese movie where Midnight. I can't remember, where he's going through Manhattan or New York City, and he comes across all these weird things, and there's like cults and stuff. That fantastic movie, I got to remember more of it. But he tells him that he had a key, and that somebody had stolen the key. He got the captain to investigate, but then there was the mutiny, and he knew one of the 10 people or 12 people or whatever had stolen the key, and he was bound and determined to figure out who it was and to get the key back. So through the last 10 years, he's been kidnapping each one, because if he'd kidnapped everybody all at once, it would have been too suspicious. So he kidnaps them one by one and figures out that none of them have the key. Cromwell Stone is trying to figure this out and why he's doing this thing. I think it's an invasion from another universe or something, and Cromwell Stone wants to know why he would betray his own kind like that. And I think he is one of the serpents, or he is somebody from the other dimension, something like that. His eye, he loses his pupil, it goes white and turns to this stripe thing. So I think he's one of the other people. So then this happens, which I'm not entirely sure what this is, but there's these striped creatures, and Gordon dies. Gordon gets killed. Somebody kills Gordon with this blade. I don't know who it is. Maybe it's Cromwell Stone. Maybe it's the other guy. Maybe it's him. I'm not entirely sure who kills him. So Cromwell Stone and the other guy are talking, the last two survivors, and they're kind of talking about what's happened, and they're both a little bit confused, and I am a little bit confused as well. Don't know. He's going back to his house to try to figure things out, I guess, and that's kind of just where it ends. It ends with the mute being fed by the fisherman, and the fisherman found something, and apparently I think this is the key that he was talking about. I don't know. I was very confused. If anybody has this comic and would like to explain it to me, I would really, really, really appreciate it, because I really did love the art, and I really did like the writing. It was the narration and the dialogue is really spot on. It had a really old-timey H.P. Lovecrafty feel, which is what you're always looking for in this kind of a book. And the art is just beautiful. You could just look at it. You could just, you don't have to read it if you don't want any of that kind of weird confusion stuff. You just look at the art, and it's beautiful, and it's well worth it for that. So I'm going to give it a review. Since I've gone through what people appreciate most in comics, and that I say I appreciate the narrative art aspect of a comic more than anything else, I can't give it a very high grade, even though the art is fantastic and the story is pretty good, except for it's very stupidly confusing, which is unfortunate. I just can't give it that high score. I'm going to give it a 6. I really wish I could give it more. The 6 is the quality of the writing and the art all on its own. The story is kind of bland anyway, but they're trying to add a lot of intrigue and stuff to it. But if you just made it understandable and not confusing, this probably could have been a 9 or a 10, maybe not a 10, but it could have been a 9, 8.5, or a 9. But because it's so confusing, I'm giving it a 6. So anyway, Cromwell Stone, 1992, reprinted from Heavy Metal, possibly. I'm not entirely sure. If anybody has any heavy metals with Cromwell Stones in it, let me know. Let me know the year. And so thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, this is the kind of stuff I do. I look at old 80s, 90s black and white indie comics, which is really the most of what I like to do. But I also look at Marvel and DC, anything that is really intriguing, really. If it has any kind of substance, then I really love that. So thanks for watching. And if you're new to the channel, like I said, please hit the notification bell and hit the subscription button, and let me know what you think. More importantly than subscribing and everything, I really love to hear the dialogue from everybody. I really love to hear the comments from everybody. I love talking about comic books. So let me know what you thought of this comic. If you have it, if you don't have it, is the art just good enough to go and purchase it? Because it's a self-contained story. It's really cheap. You can go to eBay and get it for $4 or $5. Or it's probably in dollar bins. So, pick it up just for the art, possibly. So anyway, it's Monday. We've got a whole slew of videos. We've got more artist comparisons coming up on Wednesday, and we've got more stuff, maybe more Daredevil, Born Again stuff we got to look forward to. So lots to look forward to. Have a great week, and I'll see you on Wednesday. And as I always say after a show, keep on creating.